How's it going, guys? It's Eclipse here, and today's video we look at this tank right here. One of the worst, if not the actual worst tank tier for tier in the game, and that is the AMX Chaffee. This is the tier 7 French light tank within the game. Yes, of course, we have the AMX 1357, which is also a tier 7 French light tank, but this one is one that used to be at tier 6 and then it got moved up to tier 7 as when the Bulldog and stuff got all moved up and changed around depending on that light tank rework we had quite a few years ago. So I picked this up when it was a tier 6. It was actually not a bad tier 6 light tank when you compare it to the various different ones that we had at the time, the T50-2, all of the variety of different tier 6 light tanks, the Type 64. This one was kind of in there. It wasn't particularly super overpowered anyway, but yeah, it's become even kind of less overpowered, shall we say, and that's because it has 600 hit points. The second lowest hit points at tier 7 on a light tank is 870. Now that is the AMX 1357. It does get this 6-shot autoloader, however, with 140 damage, I believe, per shot, so it wasn't a bad one. The only problem I have with the AMX Chaffee as well is it's just so mediocre in all of the areas. There is no reason why you would ever play this over any of the other tier 7 light tanks. You know, having 600 hit points really does make it just so bad. You know, you get hit by a Russian heavy tank once and you've lost 3/4 of your hit points. 3/4 in one shell. You know, even when you're playing in something like the Lycum, which is also a tier 7 light tank for the American line, of course that is just better in every way. And even the tech tree ones, the AMX 1375 there, the tier 7 one from the French actual light tank line, yeah, another really good tank, to be honest with you. But yeah, that's got 850 hit points, so it's got 250 hit points more than this tank. It's just absolutely crazy that Wargaming boosted it up a tier, didn't give it any more hit points or basically anything at all, and then thought it was completely balanced in doing that. Now, of course, we've had a pretty decent game so far in the AMX Chaffee. Picking up this amount of assistance damage and also this just general amount of damage is something you never do realistically, because the amount of hit points, the view range of the tank is pretty mediocre. It's not particularly amazing. Yes, you have okay camo, I guess, if you put on all of the concealment perks and all of the variety of camo perks that you can actually, or skills, whatever you want to call them. So long as you put those on, you know, yes, you can outspot opponents, but for the most part, it's just nowhere near competitive at tier 7. And it's one of those tanks that I really do implore Wargaming to have a look at and actually decide to try and just make a change. Decide it, basically, this tank just isn't balanced. You know, 600 hit points just makes it so bad. Yeah, it's just awful. And when you're coming up against the same tier light tanks, they can take you out in 4 shots, whereas it would take you the full 6, and you can't even take them out from full health. So not only do you not have the ability to take out opponent light tanks in your clip, they have the ability to take you out in less than their entire clip. So when you're looking at a Lycan, it is just in every way better than this tank. Don't worry though, because it gets speed. Oh wait, no it doesn't. It goes 56 kilometers an hour forward, which is awful for a light tank. Yes, medium tanks go that fast. This tank is slow. It's not particularly that agile. It's fairly boxy, so it's not even that small. I mean, it is fairly small, so it's got decent camo factor, but it's still quite boxy, easy to hit from the opponents, and so yeah, this thing really has nothing to offer. And considering it still costs the same as having a tier 7 light tank, yeah, I fail to see where Wargaming actually think that this is completely balanced, and it's one I would love to actually see get some love by Wargaming, and maybe it becomes slightly more competitive. Yes, the 6-shot autoloader can be used fairly well and have some good games, but for the most part, you're going to be having these games where you just can't compete really. And I mean, especially if you're coming up against tier 9s, you've only got 140 penetration on your standard round, which is absolutely awful. The fact that they even give you bad pen means that, you know, you're in no way competitive against the top tier tanks that you will be facing in this thing. And not only that, the APCR pen is standard, and then you get premium APCR as well. So, in fact, no, you get AP as standard and then APCR as your premium round. And just to top it all off, thinking that this tank wasn't as good or wasn't as competitive as it could be, you don't earn any extra silver with this tank. So not only do you have terrible penetration, so you have to fire premium rounds against anything above tier 7, to be honest with you, because 140 pen is annoying to come up against tier 7s with that. So yeah, very, very annoying tank. I wouldn't really recommend to anyone in the game. This tank just, there are better options at tier 7 in every single regard, and it's just so weak with regards to pretty much everything. There's no specific region that this tank excels in. Yeah, just one that I can't believe is still in the current game and never received any buffs. It basically didn't get changed when they put it from tier 6 to tier 7, which, you know, makes no sense at all. Moving a tank from tier 6 to tier 7 and then doing absolutely nothing about it in terms of its statistics to make it more competitive. Of course, this thing used to play up against tier 9s anyway, but that doesn't really make it any more balanced. Now you just definitely have to play against people that were technically a higher tier than you, and even some tier 6s have more health than you, and so yeah, just ridiculous. I don't really know what this tank is. Maybe give it some extra hit points. I don't know how you would balance it, but that's certainly what I would do. Give it a few more hit points, give it something extra, make it able to be a little bit more competitive. And you see here, we just can't even out-rotate an artillery there. And yeah, yes, we had an absolutely stunning game in the tank, but trust me when I say this does not ever happen in the AMX Chaffee. This is one of the exceptional games. 2,749 damage, 2,497 base experience, which is beyond mad. That is just crazy. 6 enemies destroyed, 3,730 assistance damage taking that bush, which is super crucial in a light tank, being a little bit more passive at the beginning of the game and being opportunistic with our auto-loading clips that we do get in this tank. And of course, one thing else to add in is that it doesn't get infinite ammo, and so a lot of the time you actually run out of ammo within the game, and so makes the tank even worse than it already is. Of course, getting a mastery badge, patrol duty, high caliber bruiser, fire for effect, spotter, top gun, and of course getting some increases to our marks of excellence. Haven't played this tank too much, and hence why we aren't at 80% plus, that sort of thing. So maybe you can kind of let me know what you actually think of the tank. We will get into the actual detailed statistics in just a second for you guys. And so here we are in the garage looking at the AMX Chaffee. This one basically, you can see on screen basically what this is featuring. We'll have a look at the detailed statistics and the sort of thing that this tank basically gets. Give it a little bit of a comparison to the other tier 7 French light tank that is sat right next to it in the AMX 1357. Of course, you can see the disparity in the hit points with 290 extra on the AMX 1357. Of course, penetration being fairly similar with slightly higher APCR pen on this tank, but you do kind of sacrifice the overall clip potential in the AMX Chaffee compared to the AMX 1357, which gets that 10-shot autoloader. It also gets a speed buff, so not only are you faster in the AMX 1357, you've got better concealment, although we do have a camo net, so I guess that kind of helps out. And of course we have coated optics, so yeah, you might get slightly better view range in the AMX Chaffee. Yes, you might get slightly better still concealment, but it's pretty much about the same. Probably is the same concealment, so not only are you just worse in regards to the actual damage output of the tank, but also the potential spotting that you can do with a tank like this. I mean, even if we look at some of the other light tanks at tier 7, of course, in the form of the Aufklärungs Panzer Panther, you've got 350 hit points less. You have less penetration on your standard rounds, you have less penetration on your premium rounds, you go slower, you have less view range, and, you know, when we actually look at it, you actually have, you know, similar kind of still concealment as well. And so what is the actual point in playing the AMX Chaffee? That hit point really does make it just unbearable to play, and one of the tanks that I would never ever recommend to anyone. Yes, it is a console specific tank, and I don't think it is on World of Tanks PC, and that's probably a reason for that, and that's because the tank just isn't competitive at all. And of course, the more broken tier 7 light tank in the form of the Lycan, with its 175mm of penetration on its standard rounds, making it crazy. It gets more alpha damage, it's faster, it's got better vision range, it's got, you know, fairly similar concealment. It's just a better tank overall, 240 more hit points, and so you can get 4-shot, like I was saying, by the Lycan, but it will take you your entire clip, pretty much, in order to take out the Lycan. So yeah, there we go. The AMX Chaffee, one of the worst tanks tier for tier in the game, so left behind that even the competitive or non-competitive light tanks at tier 7 are way better than this thing. And yes, it does have good accuracy when you put all of your perks on, like the vertical stabilizer and all of the various different perks and skills, but it still is in no way, shape or form a tank that I would ever really recommend, and it certainly is one left in the past. And hopefully Wargaming will kind of see this video, take a note of it, and then maybe give it a little bit more hit points just to make it in line with the same tier light tanks, because anyone that bought this anytime recently or in the previous, you know, last 6 months, 7 months, update 6.0 and onwards will be very, very disappointed. And yeah, I definitely was when this got moved up to tier 7 and nothing happened to it. Other than that, I hope you guys do enjoy these gameplay videos for World of Tanks, and of course let me know in the comment section down below what you change about the AMX Chaffee, and if you do anything about this tank, of course being the console exclusive that it is. Other than that, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope that you'll check out some of the other videos on screen right now, and I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.